wonderful interpreters, and thank you again for tuning in. We have an election update for you, so let's get started. As we have presented to you before, PERC gave us an extension until January 22nd to correct our apparent deficiency by submitting more cards to reach the required 30% in order to trigger the election or to show good cause to continue. We responded to PERC on the 22nd last Friday. We, Washington interpreters, submitted many more cards and provided PERC with the evidence that proves once and for all of the problems and inaccuracies with the list of interpreters that they have received from L&I. PERC responded back to us yesterday, January 27th, with their decision. So let's get into our response to PERC on the 22nd before reading PERC's response from yesterday. Because of time, we will only concentrate on some of the most important arguments that we made to PERC. Please feel free to pause this video at any time in order to read all of the information contained here and that you see on the screen. We pointed out that, in our experience, L&I cannot produce reliable information because 4 of the lists of interpreters that they gave us last year were very different. The list they gave to PERC over counts interpreters contains many entities that are not individual interpreters and is plagued with many duplicates and interpreters that are not eligible to participate in the election. But most importantly, the list that PERC received from L&I does not include our supporters who have proof that they have been active and do qualify to submit showing of interest cards. The actual number of interpreters has yet to be determined in order to accurately review that we do have the 30% of cards required. I want you to know that the first list of interpreters that we requested from L&I contained less than 340 interpreters, including duplicates. That was on March 24th, 2020, last year. Does that sound accurate to you? We requested another list on May last year, and L&I took until July 23rd to respond, giving us a list with, yet again, less than 340 interpreters. After removing most duplicates, we were very surprised by this. We know that about 40 to 45% of L&I interpreters lost their DSHS certification by July 29, 2019, and that while some of them were able to get it back, it's been very hard for most of these interpreters to actually retest again, despite both DSHS and L&I adding many more testing sites between March and June back in 2019. Now, this number that we got from that list, it's still very low considering all of that, don't you think? Are you weirded out yet? Well, get your popcorn because things are going to get more interesting now. We wanted to know if L&I was giving WFSE or any other organization the same numbers that we received. So, on October 27th last year, we asked L&I to provide a copy of every request for public records received by L&I from January to October 2020. On December last year, L&I gave us a batch of different lists. And the most recent file on that batch was current as of September 18th, 2020, according to the response. But here's the kicker. This file had 1,563 entries, including duplicates. We received this response way after we had started the election process, even though they had enough time to get back to us. What are we missing here? Are we expected to believe that the number of interpreters grew from less than 340 back in July to now 1,563 in December last year? More than 1,200 interpreters in the middle of a pandemic, with most, if not all, government offices working from home with limited staff and furlough days, tons of delays to process new applications for anything, by the way? But that's not all. Back in December, L&I provided PERC with a list of interpreters to determine if we have the 30% required to trigger the election. Well, surprise, surprise. That list contained 1,224 entries, including duplicates. We believe that most of these lists are inaccurate, if not all of them. And we also believe that L&I behaved in an unfair manner towards us, Washington interpreters, in this election process by giving us grossly inaccurate lists. That's why we also submitted an unfair labor practice complaint to PERC against L&I, which is actually being reviewed, so you know. This whole process has been a mess. I want you to remember that WFSE gets a copy of these responses that we submitted to PERC, and they know that we are disputing these numbers. Yet, they're still promoting being supposedly ahead. They're proud of having 19% of support from L&I interpreters, according to a very inaccurate list. As you can see from all this presented today, all of this while boasting about being the biggest union with all of their resources, yet hoping that we don't have an election because they know that they have failed. How pathetic is that? Now, let's get into PERC's response to us. What did they have to say about all of this? Well, let's see. Remember, feel free to pause this video to read this information at any time. We received PERC's response yesterday, as you can see right here. Dario De La Rosa here confirms that PERC received all of the additional cards that we emailed them, and that after counting again, our petition is still supposedly deficient according to the list they received from L&I on December 17th last year. Of course, this is expected because of all the problems that you have seen we have presented here today in this video. However, reading the second paragraph, Dario continues to say that, quote, the concerns raised by the Washington interpreters necessitate a discussion about the accuracy of the list of interpreters. Thank you, Dario De La Rosa. So Dario De La Rosa will have a discussion with us, Washington interpreters, about this issue. WFSE and Interpreters Rising are invited to participate, by the way. And I want you to know, though, that if any of these organizations are telling you today, Thursday, January 28th, or even last night, that they don't have any news from PERC, they're lying. Now, you can see that Dario De La Rosa emailed all parties involved yesterday at 5:35 p.m. So they are lying to you, just so you know. Here is the list of potential dates for this discussion outlined by Dario De La Rosa, which is going to be the first step into fixing this mess, by the way. It will be for 1 hour. Dario is also reminding everyone involved here that other issues not concerning the list are set aside for now and will be resolved after we reach 30%. Since Interpreters Rising missed their deadline to submit cards and didn't submit any, they will be formally dismissed once we established 30%. We just want you to be reminded of that. Now, in closing, I want to say this to you. WFSE leaders and other organizations want this election to be dismissed to try again later. WFSE knows that they don't have a chance against us and will keep opposing this election process to continue. I'm willing to bet that they will tell Dario De La Rosa in that discussion that they don't see anything wrong with the list despite the glaring amount of evidence that we have presented. Even if they acknowledge there are problems with the list, they will try to argue that this is why the election process should be dismissed. They want to try again. They don't care about L&I interpreters having representation unless they have the power. They want this election process to be dismissed, to try again and get more of their supporters become eligible once their scheduling system is up and running. It's very embarrassing that they only have submitted a little over 200 valid cards while boasting of being the biggest union. Their little misinformation tabs on their online forums won't save them. Their meager couple of $100s that they have awarded for pandemic help to interpreters won't save them. L&I interpreters know they can't keep their own interpreters covering jobs for the SHS. Most of them are struggling to get appointments, yet they want to represent L&I interpreters to do the same to you and me. It's all about getting your union dues, even if you don't have enough appointments to make a living. They do not care. My fellow L&I interpreters, we are very close to officially start the election process and put WFSE out of their misery. So please help us get this done sooner by signing our card if you haven't done it. We want to have a dual system where independent interpreters and agencies can coexist. We can't fix whatever problems we have in the L&I system by ourselves. We don't need anybody else to do it. We don't need another union composed of people that are not interpreters to try and help us do anything. So I suggest that you support the only union that has a chance to secure this victory. Don't allow WFSE to force most L&I interpreters to apply for unemployment, because that's exactly what's going to happen if WFSE wins. Very little work, competing online for appointments with everyone. Find instructions on how to send us your signed card in the description below. Help this channel by liking this video and subscribing if you haven't done it, to keep on getting relevant information for our interpreting community. See you in the next video, and as always, God bless.